Hey guys, so I just want to do another short little video here on the value of buying income producing properties. I did a short little one the other day about buying multifamily and why that makes sense. I just wanted to reiterate sort of what the main ideas here are and why I think it's so important for you guys to at least to start looking into this. There's multiple properties that are available now that we've seen that we're looking at that can produce higher returns on your money than other investments that you can have, right? I don't know who's out there that has money in the stock market or who's doing anything else that's consistently producing you the same amount of returns over and over that you like to see. I have money in the stock market. I don't make freaking anything off of it. And I know in the deals we're looking at right now, we're talking about 6 to 10% cash on cash. So just to give you a little math on this, so the sort of properties we're looking at, let's say we're going to buy a income producing property that has multiple units in it. So let's say you find and buy a property for $200,000. Let's say you're going to put in 25%, you put in $50,000. So you have $50,000 on this deal. Let's put this, we'll use 10% cash on cash for this one. So you have $50,000 in a deal on a $200,000 property. So the 10% is going to yield you, it's going to give you $5,000 per year based on that 50 that you put in. So let's assume you're going to do, now I'm talking about, when I'm talking about income producing properties here, I'm not talking about short-term buy, resell, properties. I'm talking about you're buying and holding for a long period of time. If you do this the right way, if you get in at the right time, you don't over leverage your money, and you know how to figure out a deal, it's almost impossible to lose your money on this, right? There's not a lot of other variables because the cash on cash we're talking about is after all the worst case scenarios. I'm assuming it's not going to appreciate at all. I'm assuming that I already have the vacancy rates in. I'm putting capital expenditures in. All of that is already taken care of. So let's assume that 10% number cash on cash, and let's assume you're going to have this over the span of 20 years. Now, I'm going to, again, when we do our evaluations, we're going to put in no appreciation. Like, it's all worst case scenario stuff. It's going to be worth more in 20 years, right? That is just what it is. So the only way you lose this is if you don't know how to get a deal, in that you don't know what to look for, you get bad area, bad tenants, you over leverage your money, so on and so forth. But let's assume that you know what you're doing a little bit, or you work with someone that does, and you can get a good deal. So here's what you're looking at: 50,000 bucks in on 200 grand. You're getting 10% cash on cash. We'll just call that 5 grand a year. Let's assume you have a 20-year mortgage on this property, just to make things simple. So 20 years from now, let's assume that $200,000 property gets all paid off. All this equity you're going to build is getting paid off with the tenants in there. So 20 years from now, you put in this original 50,000. You've made 5 grand per year, right? 10% on your money, year after year for the next 20 years. So 5 grand times 20 years, you've made there $100,000. Okay, so you got 100K sitting just off of that's cash flow per year, 10% cash on cash. And then let's assume that you paid $200,000 for this property, and in 20 years it's all paid off. So your tenants that are in there, right, after all the expenses, after all the vacancy rates, blah, 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 paid all of your mortgage, right? So 20 years from now, you paid 50, the property was 200, so they just made you 150,000. So now you have 100,000 that you made on your 10% cash flow return, right, based off the original 50. The math, there's a little more to that, but we're just going to keep it simple for the sake of this example. So you have 100 grand that you made on your cash flow, and then you just made your 150 on your equity. So now you have $250,000 that is sitting there that can be liquid, that you just profited, that you didn't pay anything more than that 50 that you started with. So realistically, 20 years from now, that $200,000 property that you had isn't going to be 200,000, right? That's going to appreciate. Let's be very conservative. Let's say 250. So we'll add a $50,000 appreciation. So you have 50 from the appreciation, you have the 150 from the equity. So that's $200,000. Then we have $100,000 of the cash flow, 10% cash on cash, which is very doable if you understand what to look for in the deal. So that right there, right, the 50, the 150, plus the 100 puts you at $300,000. So you have your original 50 that you put in, and then 20 years from now, you have brought in $300,000 over the span of 20 years on this property that you paid 50 for. Right, so you still have that 50 that you originally put in, and you have profited $300,000. Now, the thing about this is, now can you turn 50 into 300 in a lot of different ways over 20 years? Absolutely. Can that be done in the stock market or in other business ventures? Certainly can. But the thing with the multifamily units, which makes it, to me, like just unbelievably good, is, well, there's a lot of reasons, but particularly that how things are, how the market is, it doesn't even matter, right? Like whether things are good, whether things are bad, regardless of all of those factors, if you went in the deal the right way, if you got it in the right area and you're going to have the right tenants, if you didn't over leverage your money and you paid the price that should have been paid for it, how do you lose on that? Right? How do you lose on that? That's, you turn 50 into 300 on an investment that there's very little risk to. How do you lose your money? How do you lose that 50? The only way that you could lose on these kind of deals, and now I'm talking multifamily properties that are already producing income. I'm not saying you go in and buy a property, you got to fix it way up, or you're assuming you can manage it way better than someone else did. I'm talking about multifamily, already producing income. They're all over the freaking place. So we turned 50 into 300 over 20 years. The only way you lose on this is if you're trying to get it and get rid of it quick. But if you're in a hold, in a long-term wealth building mindset here, there's tons of examples of how to do this. So again, if someone's out there and you're creating this in the stock market or other things, please tell me how you're doing it. That's not happening with my money. So listen, multifamily rental units, you guys have to start looking at this in terms of building wealth for yourself, for your family, for your kids moving forward. Give myself or Chris a call and let's have a conversation about what's available and what sort of options that you guys have available to you. Hope all is well. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks.